Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hope you guys are doing well. So today the draw for the MTK Golden Contract tournament was announced. This tournament is for the Featherweight division, and I will briefly run through the draw and share my thoughts on each fight. Now, the MTK Golden Contract tournament is basically a tournament of 8 guys fighting to win a golden contract with MTK. Now, the golden contract consists of 5 fights, and the 5 fights are very well paid, from what I understand. The winner of this tournament will also get a 100 grand bonus, so plenty of incentive for the fighters involved. There's actually 3 separate MTK golden contract tournaments. There's one at Featherweight, which was drawn today. There's also one at Super Lightweight, and the names in that tournament look really good. And the last one is at Light Heavyweight. Once again, a few good domestic names in that Light Heavyweight tournament. So listen, I'm all for these tournaments in boxing. I think they make for great fights, evenly matched fights. And yeah, the winner of these tournaments will be in a good place. So I'm all for it. And one more thing I love about this MTK tournament: the fighters are drafted in, right? And they only know who their opponent is on fight week. That is when they find out their opponent. I love that idea. I love that concept. That really does change the dynamics of certain fights. I think that's a great idea. So listen, I'm all for this, this MTK Golden Contract tournament concept. I think it's great. Now, let's talk about the draw which was made today. Now, there's a few good fights in this featherweight tournament, in my opinion. And by the way, this tournament is on Friday, the 4th of October, and all 4 fights will be on Sky Sports. The first fight in the tournament, and one of the more interesting fights, is a fight between Lee Wood and David Oliver Joyce. Lee Wood has been knocking around at domestic level for quite some time, has a record of 22-1. He recently became the Commonwealth champion, and David Oliver Joyce is a 11-0 Irish prospect. David Oliver Joyce was a good amateur, and people in the trade do rate him. So that fight for me is a 50-50. You've got the more seasoned Lee Wood versus the less experienced pro but seasoned amateur David Oliver Joyce. That should be a really good fight. I see it as a 50-50, really hard to pick a winner there. The next fight is between the Cuban Heron Socaras. He will be fighting Ryan Walsh. This in itself is a really interesting fight. According to the bookies, Ryan Walsh is a favourite for this whole tournament. Now, Ryan Walsh is very experienced at domestic level. You know, he's defended that British featherweight title God knows how many times. His only 2 career defeats were to Lee Selby, where he was outclassed, but also to Dennis Seelan. That was for the European featherweight title. I actually felt Ryan Walsh won that fight. I felt he got hard done by on the scorecards. Ryan Walsh to me is one of those fighters who is probably above domestic level, but at best is fringe European level. That's what Ryan Walsh's level is, in my opinion. And the Cuban Heron Socaras, he is more of an unknown quantity, not really proven at any kind of level. He's not as battle tested as somebody like Ryan Walsh, but the odds on him winning this tournament are very good. I believe he's like 8 or 9-1 to win this tournament. That could be a good betting pick, because a lot of people are picking Socaras to win this tournament. I've done a bit of research on the guy. He looks okay. He looks quite useful. Seems to have some decent power in that right hand. You know, he's unbeaten with a record of 22-0 with 3 draws, 14 knockouts in those 22 wins. He looks interesting. And Ryan Walsh's last performance, for me, wasn't particularly good. You know, he could have lost that fight to Lewis Paulin. That was his last fight. And for me, he looked really flat and very beatable. So I might be picking Socaras in that fight, you know. But still, good fight, interesting. Ultimately, you know, Ryan Walsh is a favourite for a reason. But we move on. We now talk about James Jazza Dickens versus Carlos Ramos. Now, listen, man. Jazza Dickens' opponent was very up for it. at the draw today. He looks like a live wire. I'm sure he'll come to fight. The little I have seen of him, he seems fairly aggressive. And, that should be an interesting fight. Jazza Dickens, a good boxer at domestic level, but above that level, he'll come up short. We saw that against Guillermo Rigondeaux, where he got knocked out in 2 rounds. He also lost to Kid Galahad earlier on in his career. Obviously, Kid Galahad went on to challenge for world honours. And even, he lost to Thomas Patrick Ward as well, who is now in a good position in world rankings. So, when Jazza Dickens has stepped up, he's kind of come up short. But he's a good domestic level operator. And the dude he's fighting, unknown, unproven, but he seems a live wire. That should be a good fight. I think that is the boxer versus the pressure fighter. And lastly, we have Tyrone McCullough versus Carlos Araujo. Now, Carlos Araujo is a Mexican fighter. He's got a record of 15-1, whereas Tyrone McCullough is an unbeaten prospect. Now, I've seen a little bit of Tyrone McCullough, but not too much. And what I have seen, he doesn't look particularly impressive. He's certainly not one of the people that I would be picking for this tournament, but he's okay, I guess. And his opponent, Carlos Araujo, I've never seen him fight, but his record is quite impressive. He's got 12 knockouts in 15 fights, so I'm assuming he can bang. I'm assuming that, he'll come and bring aggression, being a Mexican fighter. That could be a good fight in itself, but I've never really been impressed with Tyrone McCullough, to be quite honest. So, maybe he'll lose that fight, maybe not. We'll see in regards to that one. Can't really comment on that one, as I've not seen enough of McCullough, and I've seen nothing of Araujo, so that is the unknown to me. But yeah, I love this concept. I think we are going to get some great fights, and looking forward to it. And by the way, this takes place at York Hall, so we should get a really good atmosphere. Share your thoughts below. What do you make of this MTK Golden Contract Tournament concept? I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. Peace.